Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, I'm really excited to present an in-depth look at my grandfather's 2003 Mercury Grand Marquis LS Ultimate Edition. I'm actually dedicating this video in memory of Papa Slim, as he was more affectionately known. If you didn't already know, he passed away early last year at 94 years old.
Hey, come on in. I'm called Slim. I'm Kyle's grandfather, better known to family members especially as Papa. So if he wants me for anything, he'll holler Papa.
The man led an incredible life. He retired from the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department. He drove an oil tanker for a number of years. He just did all sorts of stuff. But above all else, he was my best friend, and I miss him all the time. Even when I was younger, he was instilling the car enthusiast mindset, and more specifically, my love from classic cars definitely came from him. You know, how V8s are awesome, dual exhausts are awesome, and chrome was awesome. All that good stuff.
I'm a twin exhaust, or you can call it a dual exhaust nut. I like that. I like the sound.
But with this car in particular, he and my grandma Aline, who I called Mamanine, bought this brand new right out of the showroom. I still have all of their original purchase paperwork with their signatures and stuff. I've got the window sticker, the sales brochure, so I try to keep this thing up as much as I can to keep it in like new condition. That being said, way back in the day, in the early days of the channel, I used to film this car all the time, and I was watching a video back from 2010, and the car only had 45,000 miles on it. Papa was letting me borrow it to drive to school for a while, and here we are 10 years later, and the car just hit 90,000, so it's awesome. We're trying to enjoy it as much as we can, my wife and I, and it's just awesome. I'm losing my train of thought now, but I basically wanted to film this video as a complete in-depth tour to update long-term subscribers as to how the car is now, and for anybody new watching the channel, we're going to go through it. I'm going to review it. I'm going to show all the ins and outs. We're going to get plenty of sound clips because the car sounds really good. It's got a Borla exhaust and an intake, just some fancy stuff that Papa really, really liked.
Just right. Just right. Sounds like a race car.
Before we get started, I'd like to extend a huge thanks to Eagle One for supporting the channel. If you follow my social platforms, you'll know that my life has been a little chaotic over the last couple of years between building a house and all sorts of other unexpected family things. It's been a roller coaster, to say the least, but one of the things that I'm just very passionate about is detailing, and I haven't been able to do so much to the Mercury in a while, which made me very upset. So Eagle One really stepped up and provided me with a bunch of detailing supplies to get this thing looking better than ever, and I really appreciate it. I'll talk about some of the products that I've used a little bit later in the video. I've got some detailing clips and whatnot. I just want this video to be as fun as possible, and it's just really awesome to see companies wanting to support the content and whatnot. It really means a lot, and of course all of the support from everybody watching. I couldn't do this without you guys, so without further ado, let's get in this thing, start her up, and let her run. For 2003, the Grand Marquis was offered with 9 exterior colors and 3 interior colors. This one's finished in spruce green metallic and features a light flint leather upholstery. The LS Ultimate was the top-of-the-line trim at the time. It came with a lot of standard features and even some pretty cool stuff like a digital instrument cluster and a rear air suspension. Of course, being top of the line, a keyless entry system did come standard with 2 remotes. There's also a valet key, but I'm not 100% sure of what that actually does. But something else that's pretty cool is that if you look above the driver's door handle, there's actually a keypad where you can program a code to control the locks. 2003 brought on some significant revisions to the Grand Marquis. Of course, there were some styling tweaks inside and out, but it still looked pretty similar to its predecessor. The major changes came underneath the skin, with new steering, brakes, a new frame with hydroformed sections, a new aluminum front cross member, updated front and rear suspensions. Just all together, it made the car a much better driving experience that felt a lot more controlled, less floaty than its predecessors, and just a really nice ride overall. Funny story, even though this car was used by both Mamanine and Papa, this was primarily Papa's car. Mamanine thought it was just a little too big for her, so eventually she got herself a Volkswagen Beetle. Here's the original window sticker and sales brochure, so I can actually show you how much this thing cost when it was brand new. You can see in this column over to the right the features that came standard with the LS Ultimate Edition. So $29,080, then conventional spare tire and destination and handling brings it all to $29,905. I love having the window stickers. It's part of the car's history. Now let's go ahead and pop the hood. We'll talk about the powertrain. The Grand Marquis is powered by a 4.6-liter single overhead cam V8 with sequential multi-port fuel injection and 2 valves per cylinder. It produces 224 horsepower at 4,800 RPM and 272 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. Now, if you got the sportier LSE model, which is similar to a Crown Victoria LX Sport, because of its dual exhaust and, well, probably just because of the dual exhaust, power was raised slightly to 239 horsepower and 287 pound-feet of torque. So that's probably more realistic as far as what this car is making with the exhaust and the intake and stuff, but, you know, these cars definitely aren't built for power, but they sure are smooth. The transmission is a 4-speed electronically controlled automatic with overdrive fed through a traditional column shifter. If you wanted to turn off overdrive, you just hit this little button on the end of the stalk. But just put your foot on the brake, pull it down. You have first and second gear selection, drive, neutral, reverse. As far as performance, I don't know what the 0 to 60 is, and honestly, who cares? Let's just hit the pedal. So they're definitely not fast. They're not made to be fast. This thing does feel a little bit quicker with the mods that I did to it, but I'm not interested in doing anymore. That was just for funs, and the exhaust was for Papa. But driving around day-to-day use, I've never felt like the car needed more power. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you know, I think it's a good setup at the end of the day. The gas cap is automatically locking. The only way to unlock it is to hit the button on the bottom of the driver's door. This thing has a total tank capacity of 19 gallons and runs on just regular 87 unleaded. Fuel economy estimates range between 17 miles per gallon in the city and 25 miles per gallon on the highway, but in normal day-to-day use, I average a little over 21 miles per gallon. Now let's go ahead and see how she sounds. A huge thanks once again to Eagle One for supporting the channel. This thing needed a massive detail before I was even gonna contemplate filming this video. I'm embarrassed with how bad it got, but anyway, Eagle One sent over a whole bunch of products for me to try out, so I really appreciate it, and I've gotta admit, this thing is just looking fantastic. For example, their all-wheel and tire cleaner makes it easy and affordable to get showroom clean wheels and tires by destroying grease, grime, and brake dust with an acid-free triple cleaning foam formula. Be sure to check out Eagle One's complete line of detailing products, including their specialty wheel cleaners at O'Reilly Auto Parts. If you go to O'ReillyAuto.com, also don't forget to take advantage of the exclusive discount code SOBKyle20, which gets you 20% off of purchases of $100 or more. Thanks, everyone. In a car review, it's important to talk about how the car drives, so let's do it. I'll start off with saying that the Grand Marquis rides really well. Most of my driving roads are just abysmal, filled with potholes and rough roads, and this thing soaks it all up like a champ, and it really shines on the highway. This is a phenomenal cruiser, but it also drives a whole lot better than you would think. It doesn't feel like a big old boat necessarily. Maybe the older Grand Marquis and Crown Victorias and stuff were like that, but that's not the same, or that's not the case with this. I think in 1998, that was the year that they introduced the Watts link for the rear suspension. But in 2003, they significantly changed up the steering, the suspension. They added the hydroformed sections and the front frame rails. So all in all, while the car doesn't look a whole lot different, the driving experience is significantly different. So you have a short, long arm front suspension, monotube shock absorbers all the way around, and I think it's like a 4-link setup out back with the live axle and the Watts link setup. So the major change for the rear suspension in 03 was better control of vertical and lateral movements, which if you put those together, that's what gets you the floatiness, side to side, up and down movements and stuff. And you don't get that with this car. Like, it's very stable, very sure-footed. You take a corner and it doesn't like list super hard to one side like you're just cruising on a big barge. Like, it's very well controlled. Nice ride overall. As far as the brakes, they were also tweaked. I honestly don't remember what they did, but equipment-wise, you've got 12-inch internally ventilated discs up front. You've got 2 piston calipers. Out back, the discs are like 11.6 inches with single piston calipers. The initial pedal feel is definitely on the softer side. It's like, it's a very comfortable brake pedal. You just lean into it nice and gentle. If you're used to like stop on a dime type brakes, it might take some practice. But giving credit where it's due, these brakes perform phenomenal. Like, they stop the car very well. There's no denying that the Grand Marquis is basically a fancied up Crown Victoria. You do have some nicer materials used throughout, and this car is certainly geared more towards the luxury-focused consumer, but if you wanted the real luxury and comfort, you'd have to pony up the extra cash for the Lincoln Town Car, which rode on the same platform and had the same powertrain, but the styling and interior were drastically different from either the Crown Victoria or the Grand Marquis. But I've always liked this interior. It's very no-nonsense, it's roomy, of course it's very comfortable, and it's also quite practical. Both front seats feature 8-way power adjustments, including power lumbar. The design of the seats is more of a bench-like setup, so technically this car can sit 6 people if you fold up those oversized armrests. The only downside with all of that is that there's a pretty big drivetrain hump running from the front to the back, so it could hinder up legroom for whoever's sitting in the middle, but it is possible. The hood ornament, or the ornament that's on the grille, did not originally come with the car. One of Papa's biggest complaints about this, because he used to have some older town cars, was that they weren't putting the emblems on the cars anymore, because the emblems were a great way to see where the front end was. If you were pulling into a parking spot, you can see where that was so you don't accidentally hit a pole, which it's legit. So it took me forever to track one down, but I finally found a hood ornament. They only came on certain Grand Marquis of this generation, so I got it, I bolted on. I swear that was his favorite part of the whole car. Every time he had somebody come over to the house, he'd point out that emblem, be like, check that out, like Kyle put that on. That was just so cool. You can actually use the regular key to lock the trunk and the glove box for added security. I don't know why I never tried the valet key before, but it actually will not unlock all of that stuff. So when you're valeting the car, you can give them that key with everything locked up and they can't go opening your stuff. The steering wheel in the Ultimate Edition is wrapped in leather and finished off with genuine wood trim up top and down below. What's kind of funny is that, you know, obviously the wood across the dash and door panels isn't real, but they didn't bother matching the grain of the nice stuff to the other stuff. So, especially in the right light, the patterns don't match at all, but good attention to detail. But it's really nice. I like this steering wheel because it's got big grip areas at 3 and 9, and you have a bunch of multifunction controls. On the left side, you have cruise control. On the right side, radio controls and climate controls, so you can adjust the temperature and fan speed, which is a lot more convenient than you might initially think, because while it's not too hard to actually reach the climate stack, the cup holders are right beneath it, so you can pop that out. There's an ashtray, there's a lighter and power outlet set up, but if you have 2 big drinks sitting there, it pretty much blocks all of your ability to get to the necessary buttons, so you just use the steering wheel. That being said, the Ultimate Edition had a fully automatic climate control system. It's just a single zone. You can check outside temperature there. Very simple controls. I think they used these controls for many, many years, but rear defrost, cabin temperature sensor, fan speed, defrost. Very basic, but effective. The digital display is one of my favorite features. You've got a button row right here that allows you to go between all of those different menus. You've got distance to empty, average fuel economy, trip A, trip B, and average speed. You can also go between English and metric, and reset some of these, you know, like average fuel economy. The dashboard also has soft touch material up top and down below. Off on the far left, you have the automatic headlight controls as well as the interior lighting dimmer. Down below, the Ultimate Edition also had a power pedal adjustment that allowed up to 2 inches of adjustment to basically suit anybody. And that kind of goes along with the seats as well. The seats have a ton of adjustability in them. You can pull them almost all the way forward. So if you're tall or really short, this car can probably accommodate you. The steering wheel offers tilt but no telescoping adjustment. A foot-activated parking brake is located right next to the hood release lever. The original radio in this car had both AM, FM, as well as an in-dash cassette deck and CD player. I ended up swapping it out for another factory unit that had an aux port retrofitted into it so I could plug in my iPod, but I started using this car for a lot more traveling, more so interstate traveling, so I just decided to upgrade it to a more modern double-din head unit that had Bluetooth telephone, a backup camera, Apple CarPlay, so I could do everything on here like I would do on my phone and just make life a bit easier. Coming at you from the passenger side, talking about safety, these cars are pretty stout. You know, big full-size body-on-frame car, there's a lot of metal. There's big steel reinforced beams in the doors for extra side protection. I believe when this was tested in 03, it actually achieved 5-star government safety ratings. The only downside, I guess, is that there's only 2 airbags within the interior as far as standard equipment is concerned, one for the driver and one for the front passenger. You could opt for front seat mounted side airbags, which would also come paired with heated seats. Up top, there's dual visors with illuminated vanity mirrors and a full overhead console. There's plenty of lighting up here with additional storage for sunglasses and the like. Down towards the front, there's supposed to be a compass that you could turn on or off, but it's not working now for some reason. You have reading lamps and 3-position garage home link. The rear view mirror is also auto dimming. Alright, let's go ahead and shut her down. And then we'll check out the back seat and the trunk. I mentioned earlier how these cars are just incredibly practical. One point of that practicality is trunk space, so let's go ahead and pop it and check it out. I love how the trunk lid automatically comes up a little bit of ways, making it just easier to grab and hoist on up. But back here you have nearly 21 cubic feet worth of cargo space. It's a really deep well. Mom and Ian put that little mat back there after they bought it just to try to protect the bottom of the floor, so who am I to take it out? There's also a cargo organizer net up against the back there, and a full-size spare tire sitting on top of that ledge. There's also illumination so you can see easier at night. You could fit a lot of stuff in this thing. And here's another look from the opposite side. Now let's go ahead and hop in the back seat. I know this probably sounds silly to mention, but I've always liked the sound of how these doors open and close. If you just listen carefully. I don't know, they're just very easy to open, and I like it, I don't know. But anyway, big car, big back seat. It's not quite as roomy as you might think, but still pretty accommodating. The back seat is like sitting on a huge couch. It is so plush. I have the front seat set for how I normally sit. I'm 5'10", and as you can see, I probably have about an inch of wiggle space here, so not a ton, but it's doable. I probably have about a few inches or so of extra headspace. This is another nice thing. The rear windows roll down all the way instead of stopping part way like a lot of newer vehicles. The only storage you have back here are the pockets on the backs of the front seats. The only downside about the design of the rear seat is the fact that there are no headrests, but it more than makes up for that with all of the extra padding that you get. I'm not kidding. When you sit in this thing, you absolutely sink down. It is phenomenal. There's also a fold-down armrest with cup holders. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Please don't forget to leave a like below. It really helps the video a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so, because there's always a lot more content where that came from. Once again, a massive thanks to Eagle One for their support with the channel. Don't forget to check out the link below and take advantage of the exclusive discount code through O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.